HealthTech listeners, I'm your host this week, Justine Abson. This is the podcast where we tackle some of the trending topics, ideas and best practice across health and social care. Today, I'm really excited to welcome someone I've actually known for years. As well as being the sister of one of my school friends, Antonia Philp is the co-founder of Nursem alongside her husband, Johnny. Nursem is a skincare brand born out of compassion for nurses and healthcare workers. And today, we're going to be talking about how it all started, the journey of developing the product and the incredible impact that they're having across the UK. So Antonia, welcome to What the HealthTech.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. You're the first person that I've actually known for a long time that is on the podcast, so I'm really excited. So let's start from the beginning. So obviously I know you've got quite a personal story behind developing Nursem. So can you tell our listeners a little bit about this and the brand behind it?
Yeah, of course. So I qualified as a nurse. I graduated from University of Manchester in 2008 with my degree in children's nursing. And not long after that, I was working on a kind of really busy tertiary medical ward. So kids with respiratory conditions, cardiac conditions, metabolic conditions. And there was loads of kids who needed IV antibiotics. And because of that, you have to wash your hands a heck of a lot, probably more than you would ordinarily. So on average, 50 to 60 times a day. And my hands just became absolutely horrendous. So they were cracked, they were dry, they were bleeding. And that's what's basically called contact dermatitis. So they were so broken down that I wasn't allowed to work. I spent 2 weeks off work until they got better. And the first thing that I did when I went to kind of get signed off work was I went to occupational health, and they actually gave me a specimen tub that you would normally put like a stool sample or a urine sample in, and they squirted half a tube of this awful petroleum-based hand cream into this pot and handed it over to me. And I was absolutely like furious. I was like, are you kidding me? Like I have slogged for 3 years to get my degree. I'm a children's nurse, and this is what I get. And they were like, yep, there you go. And I was really emotional about it, because I kind of felt like, if this is going to keep happening, and I'm going to they're going to keep breaking down, then am I actually going to be able to do the career that I trained to do? So I went home, rocked up at my mum's front door, and just burst out crying. She was like, oh my goodness, what's happened? And I was just like, look, Mum, like, look at my hands. Like, they're so sore. I can't work. Like, I'm not allowed to work for 2 weeks. And it was then at that point I started kind of looking into what was actually available on the market that wasn't steroid based. So of course, just go straight to steroids. They would probably solve the problem for a little bit, but actually the side effects of steroids is to kind of get really thin skin, and they're not great for long-term use. And I actually found there was just nothing. I went into a Boots, literally bought up a whole shelf of products and just tried them. And I was like, oh, like, this is too greasy. This is it's like the Goldilocks story. It's like you try different things and it's just like, no, it doesn't work. I was like, do you know what? Maybe we could do something about it. And I was quite fortunate in that Johnny, my husband and co-founder, who you know from school, also he had set up a couple of businesses beforehand. So he kind of had, I guess, a few kind of ways in of potentially looking into what we could do, and also like formulation chemists that he knew of and things. So we started the ball rolling at that point, and I just basically put together a brief of various things that I would like in the product. And that is just not through me being a chemist or anything myself, but purely because I love products. Like, I use lots of products, and also one of our main ingredients within the product is something called Manuka honey. And Manuka honey is known within the hospitals to be used as a really amazing thing for kind of cellulitis, nasty wounds, and it's got amazing antiseptic properties. It's got healing properties, and they impregnate it into dressings. So it's like so that's how I'd come across it in the first place, and so I was like, I want this in my product. Like, it's amazing. It works really effectively. And we kind of, there was many iterations of the product. And originally we kind of, when we first launched, we called it Yes Nurse, which was always a bit of a funny one, because I would ring people and be like, oh, hi, it's Antonia from Yes Nurse. And people automatically thought it was something dodgy. Or, it was just like a bit like, Yes Nurse.
Yeah.
So we ended up kind of rebranding a little bit further down the line. But when we launched, it was Yes Nurse. I got all of my colleagues to try it at work. So I'd take various formulas in and they would try them. And I kind of became known as like the hand cream lady at work for a little bit, just because it was like, oh yeah, here she comes with another of the hand creams to try.
Yeah, what are we trying today?
Exactly. So yeah, so that's like that was the early days of what is now Nursem.
I love it. Do you know what's I think so interesting about it is that obviously you had this issue and then obviously, spotted that gap in the market and things like that. But, it must have been happening to thousands of nurses as well across the UK, that were all
Yeah,
trying things that just couldn't find something that actually worked for that level of hand washing.
yeah, you're so right. And actually, we've kind of done further studies, and we found that like it's something like 89% of healthcare staff will suffer from some form of skin condition in their career, whether and that's specifically for your hands. So whether that's contact dermatitis, eczema, psoriasis. So it is a problem.
Mm. And especially when you're looking at then, being off work as well. Like you obviously had to take 2 weeks off. How many other people had to take time off? Obviously, at a time that, there's shortages and things like that everywhere of nurses. So to then be taking time off for something that should be fixable, I guess, or
Absolutely.
preventable,
Yeah,
shall we say, is
absolutely.
even more important.
And that was one of my biggest things with the whole thing, is that, this is me, and I was kind of fixing my own itch, I guess. But like it actually helps. Like we've helped so many nurses now through our products, but not only nurses or like doctors, midwives, but so not just healthcare staff, but we've also helped the likes of gardeners and florists and builders and like dustbin men and like all sorts of people. Like it is so like transferable actually what we're doing, but we just want to. So we're basically like, our kind of motto, I guess, is that we can be the heroes of hand care. So we support lots of people in that sense.
That's a nice motto to have, heroes of hand care. I like that. Did you, I know you obviously touched on the fact that you took samples in and your colleagues tried it and things like that. Did you collaborate with any other healthcare professionals during the process? What was kind of those really early days like?
Yeah, so we wanted, what we did, and we were really fortunate with in Newcastle actually, was there was something called Newcastle Science City. So the whole idea with that is that it was EU funded. So basically, it was for businesses that were science or health based. And the idea is that you'd go into this kind of like incubator, and they would assist in kind of getting a product to market. So I was continuing to work as a children's nurse for like throughout, but so I continued like full time. But my co-founder and husband went into Science City with the product, and it was really funny because at the time I think everyone else rocked up there, and they all had like all the other businesses, the founders had like PhDs, and they were like proper academics. And Johnny spent a few months at university and decided it wasn't for him, and went to the school of life instead. And he was apparently, we found out later that he was the wild card.
Oh,
And
really?
Yeah, but actually, out of all of the businesses, I think one of it's ours that's the only one that's still going. So that's quite a
Amazing.
nice thing. But with that, that was really helpful because they basically helped us fund the testing. So we got it tested through like scientific testing to make sure that it didn't undermine health, hand washing. So it was like Eurofins tested so it could be used in the hospital wards. So we kind of had, I guess, professionals, like medical professionals, helping from that sense. It's also all been consultant dermatologist approved, so we had help from them, and then also some of our kind of newer products we've had help again from people whose background is in dermatology. So we've had some amazing kind of product developers who've helped us, and then also I guess people who've just supported us along the way from a healthcare stance. So nurses who use it, doctors who use it, midwives who use it and talk about it and share it. So it's very much the healthcare staff have been very much intertwined into what we've done.
Which I think obviously your ethos is to kind of, make, hand washing, making sure that product works for the challenge that nurses and doctors and, I guess now the wider market, but the ethos is to fix that challenge, I guess, fix that problem.
Absolutely, yeah.
What about
I think
hurdles? Oh, sorry, go on.
yeah, yeah. I think this is the best businesses are the ones that try and fix a problem. So they've seen a problem, they've maybe fully realized that problem themselves, and then you can fully kind of immerse yourself, I guess, in trying to find a solution. And both Johnny and I, as people, we're fixers. Like we like to fix things, we like to sort things out, and it's probably sounds a little bit crazy. And I think sometimes when we talk about it to other people, they're like, but what, like, why didn't you just go and like try loads of other products that maybe weren't on Boots shelf and
Yeah.
try and do? And I'm like, yeah, but I think it is that thing of like, I've seen the problem, and ultimately, like, actually, if we dig deep enough, we could probably fix the problem. So like,
Mm.
why not? And I think that for us, it's really important to care for the staff that work within the NHS, and our kind of our key, like our big buzzwords are caring and effective. And we care about people's hands. We want them to use a product that are effective, but we also want to care for them as a whole. So we're doing a lot of work around that at the moment, which we might touch on in a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to talk to you about the Nursem Promise because I think this is absolutely amazing. And I think it's such a powerful aspect of your brand and what you guys do. So, can you talk to us about the Nursem Promise and how that works?
Yeah, sure. So this again, as a nurse and as a healthcare, like a member of the NHS who sees people like every single day working their socks off, uh, I think at times it can be a little bit thankless, and actually some of the things that you carry with you as a member of the NHS, it is a lot. Like what you carry is a lot, and there's a lot of burden. And for me and Johnny, it was really important that we gave something back. So what we have is we have the retail arm of the business. So we basically we sell in kind of Boots and Sephora and Space NK and Amazon, and also on our website. And that part of the business funds the other part of the business, which is I guess, our philanthropic side of the business. So for every single product we sell at retail, we give a month's worth of free hand care to a nurse, midwife, or other healthcare professional in the NHS. And that we've been doing that for quite a long time now. So to date, we've given about 750,000 Nursem Promises out. And what they get is they basically get a box, and within it they get 4 big pump size bottles, like huge pump size bottles of hand cream, and they get like pens and lanyards and posters, and that is delivered onto the wards, so that they can use them at work. And that for us is really important and is a non-negotiable. Like that will always be what we do. However, kind of even if we were to sell in the future, that is something that we would stipulate that needs to continue to happen. And actually that's a lovely part of the business as well for both of us, because it's kind of like that, like giving back. It's like, we appreciate you, we see you, we thank you, and actually we know that your hands are probably really awful a lot of the time, and you can't help that. You have to wash your hands, you have to protect your patients, you have to protect yourself. But here's some hand cream, and it works. It's really effective. And around that as well, it's been an amazing platform, I guess, to do more about well-being of staff as well. So as I'm sure you're aware, well-being in the NHS is really important, but it's a problem in a sense, in that a lot of staff are burning out. A lot of staff suffer from anxiety, depression, all sorts of mental health problems. And this is becoming more and more of a thing that we're seeing. So we've just been working with an amazing psychologist who's called, she's called, her kind of Instagram handle is at the psychology mum, but she's called Dr. Emma Hepburn. So she's a clinical psychologist, and she is also the author of 4 books now. And she is just an amazing woman. So a lot of what she does is she does these amazing illustrations. She talks about Mind HQ. She talks about kind of recognizing signs of burnout, and like things like compassion fatigue, all of these things that healthcare staff do suffer with. So we've done an amazing partnership with her, and we can use the Nursem and the Nursem Promise as a bit of a platform for that. So we're just trying to do more with that, and help not just with hands but also with heads of healthcare staff.
It feels like such a natural progression, that as well, from obviously, again, going back to kind of why you started it, you were trying to fix something, and to create something that you're so incredibly passionate about. I think that natural progression to then almost follow that into well-being, especially given, like you said, there's so much about it at the moment. And it's something that sort of should have been looked at for a long time, but maybe at least now there's quite a lot of focus on it. So I think for you to go down that route feels like a great kind of like combination of the two as well.
Exactly. And I think when you work within healthcare, you witness firsthand the kind of the things that staff have to go through, and also the essentially it's for some people it is trauma, and actually the way you're supported is when everything is really busy and everyone's running around like crazy, and ultimately your priority is the patients, then you forget to look after yourself. And I mean, I can remember someone really early in my career saying, when you leave, like just as a physical thing, like put your stuff into your locker and lock your locker and then walk away. And at that point, forget it all. Like that's the day done. And I was just like, that is so much rubbish, because like you can't, like you carry these families with you, you carry these patients with you, and you will probably for a long, long time. And actually, like it is that case, like, it's very well to say just walk away and forget about it, but you can't, because it's ultimately people's lives and people's health and what they're going through that you carry, but you have to just find ways. There's certain ways to cope with it, and I guess that's what hopefully the NHS are getting better at realizing and doing, and putting more support systems in place.
And that's it, isn't it? It's really easy for someone to go, "Oh, that's how I deal with it. I shut the locker, I forget about it." But like you said, it's so much easier said than done that. And especially if you've got families that you're maybe seeing day in, day out as well, every time you go on shift, it's or something incredibly, traumatic has happened. You're not just going to be able to walk away and forget about it. You might be able to go, right, I've got to sort my own kids' tea out. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. But it's still in your head, which I think sometimes that
Yeah,
makes it even more difficult to almost deal with a little bit.
absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
What about, have you heard, I mean, you must have had amazing feedback from nurses who have benefited from the promise. And maybe around those, how do you kind of make sure that the promise reaches nurses that maybe need it more than others as well? How does it work in terms of you getting that out there?
So that's a really good question. I think that we at the moment we probably have quite like a scattergun approach in that, look, we just will try and, like, that trust not receipt hasn't received any, and this trust has, like, let's make sure that we evenly just disperse it. But so we try and just be as fair as possible. What we do get sometimes is we get individual people contacting us and saying, I was a patient on ITU at, like, I don't know, like one of the hospitals, and it would be like, the staff were amazing. Like, I just wanted to say thank you to them. Is there any chance that you could deliver one of the Nursem Promises into the hospital? And we do that on the odd occasion, but it's not very cost effective. It's kind of like, the Nursem Promise costs us as a company a lot of money, so we have to be quite sensible about it. So we tend to do what's the best thing is to do a Nursem drop. So for instance, like recently we did, I think it was 50 Nursem Promises to NSEC, which is the Northumbria Specialist Emergency Care Hospital. And that was really lovely because we kind of made a little bit of a song and dance about it. We went in with their Bright charity, and that was lovely because it was like we walked around, spoke to a few people. So that's what we tend to do. But it is like, they will get some emails through, and I'm just like, yeah, just send some. It's fine. Like,
Yeah.
we just need to. I think it is. We're all everyone that works within the company have got huge hearts, and I think we're just keen to help as many people as possible, really.
And that must be one of the most amazing things about, obviously, you've grown significantly since you started. So kind of going from that small idea to a national brand must feel amazing, and especially seeing that impact that you're having as well.
Yeah, it's funny because I guess for years and years we just kind of slogged at it, and I think that there'll be there was a lot of times where I was just like, oh my goodness, like, I could, even right before we had kids, so we didn't have children until like 2017. Um, and so I was continuing to work full time as a children's nurse. I'd moved up to Newcastle at this point, so we were living in Newcastle, and I used to get home and Johnny would be working on what is now Nursem, or Yes Nurse when it then, and we would, out of the business, like, for a long time we just took no money, so we lived fully off my nurse's salary, which isn't much. And then we kind of were like, we got to the point where we then had, we got married in 2015, and we were just like, we need to like make this, like, make money, like, we're like, properly, we need to take some money out of it, it needs to pay its way. And I guess in a way that kind of pressure of then our first child coming along, we were like, we really need to make some money out of it.
Need to
So,
make it
and
work.
then, like, exactly, and then throwing a maternity leave and stuff like that. So then we started taking more money out of the business, but we've always been quite kind of considered. But it's weird to think. One of my friends pulled out a early day Yes Nurse bottle the other day, and it was this weird a feeling of, like, just like nostalgia of seeing this bottle. But, like, I feel like for such a long time, like, when we the very early days, we would, so when Johnny spun out of Science City, um we had a pallet worth of stock, and it was like, there you go, there's your pallet of stock. Like, get rid of it, like sell it.
Yeah.
So then it was like, and then rinse. So then we got it into a couple of little retailers, and then it was rinse and repeat again. So then that then funded the next pallet. And then it was only kind of 20, I think it was like around 2015, 2016 that we took a bit of money from investors, and then just kind of scaled it. And then at that point we did a big rebrand in 2017, and that was when we became Nursem, and that was when we joined forces with Mother London, which is the ad agency. So it kind of just, it was like little bits, like little steps all the way that kind of then allowed us to grow. But it is I feel incredibly proud of like what we've done. And it's when kind of people say, oh, what do you guys do? And I'm like, oh, well, I'm a children's nurse, but and we run a skincare company. And they'd be like, oh, what's it called? And I'm like, oh, and just it's called Nursem. And they're like, oh my goodness, yes, I've used it like years. I saw you guys on like customers always right, or on Dragon's Den, and like it is a really nice feeling that we've, like, something that was an idea and could still be very much an idea is a reality, and it's now it's paying its way, kind of thing, well and truly, and for us to get other staff working for us and all of that. So that's really good.
It's also allowing you to grow as well. I think it's really important to sometimes look back at where you came from, you know, for your friend to have pulled out that bottle of the Yes Nurse and you to kind of almost remember those days is really important, because it shows you how far you've come, but also like now where you are, it's allowing you to grow into, obviously you're expanding into other products, and, you know, hand wash and things like that. And, you know, to kind of have that and know that the products you're making are making a difference as well must be quite special.
Yeah, it is. And I think as well, like, you know, we always said that it had to work, because ultimately you live and die by your product. Like, how good is your product? If your product is rubbish, then you can do the best packaging in the whole wide world and the fanciest box and the best content creation, all the rest. But if the what's inside is rubbish, then people aren't going to come back and buy it again. So that for us was super, super important. And I think that it had to work for the hardest working hands, essentially. And it's lovely to know that we've developed something that does, and we won awards, and we get a lot of kind of press around it, and that's really, really nice to know that it's something that was an idea that we kind of came up with, and hadn't been for my hands, then it probably wouldn't have happened. So
Yeah. But I think, again, you've turned something that was such a negative thing at some point of your career, you know, to kind of be really worried that you weren't going to be able to do the career you wanted to do. You can see how passionate you are about nursing, that to have turned that negative into such a positive, and not only just a positive for yourself, but for like, you know, look at all the, you know, hundreds of thousands of nurses you must have helped. Like, you know, you mentioned about how many Nursem Promises you've already given away, and that's only to date. So to be then having that impact, you know, against for other nurses is really special. And I guess there must be stories you've heard around that impact. So is there anything that like really sticks with you that you've heard on that?
So we've had some amazing, like I'm always so grateful to people who kind of reach out and tell us like various stories. And I think probably one of the funniest ones that I can remember was it was during COVID, and we had an email that came through like the customer services, and it was actually my brother Ed, who at the time who was working for us, sent it over to me, and it just said in big writing, not Antonia, question, this is not for you. And then it was like, and then you kind of scroll down, and then it was like, question, is this Antonia yet? Not Antonia, question, scroll down further. So then he sent it on to me, and I like looked at it, and I was like, what the heck is this? This is so weird. Like, what is it? And I hope this person won't really listen to this podcast. But anyway, she had said, so during COVID, apparently she'd had like a kind of gynecological issue. And because of COVID, she couldn't see anyone. So she decided to use some of our Nursem products, to try and solve this problem. And she was basically in this email. So it was lots of scrolling for
Yeah.
me, but eventually I got to the root of it. And it was like,
Sure.
I just want to say how much your products have helped me. She was just like, I had the most horrendous problem and I couldn't see anyone because it was COVID, and I was in so much discomfort. And she was just like, and your product solved it. And
Oh
we
my
were just like,
God.
oh my goodness, this is hilarious, because we didn't, like, that's not what we say for it to be
Yeah.
used for. So, like, it's meant for your hands.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So that was a nice one, just to know that, like, it really helps
Yeah.
somebody. But yeah, we've had many stories and people kind of talking about, like, actually, like, the brand, even like the product is like, they'll say, the product's amazing, but actually the ethos of it, like, they love the fact that we're giving back through the Nursem Promise. It feels like really like lovely purchase. So it feels like you're kind of buying, you're spending some money on some hand cream or one of our other products, but actually knowing that they're giving back to healthcare staff is kind of like, well, it's fine. Like you kind of almost forget about the cost of it when you know that
Yeah.
you're doing good for your purchasing. So yes, we've had lots though, lots of lovely
I
stories.
love that one.
That's
That's so good. I mean, I'd
a
say that proves how gentle it is. So, you're fine.
yeah, this is true. This is true.
But I think that is it, though. I think people do buy into the brand of things now, and I think now more than ever, people are really conscious about things they're buying and the impact that has. Whether it's around sustainability, whether it's around kind of ethos of brands. Kind of people are more, especially when it comes to clothing brands and things like that. Now, people are
Yeah,
super conscious of things. So I think to kind of
absolutely.
know that, to be buying a product that's a skincare product that is a must-have for a lot of people, and to then know that you are helping others is, I think that's such a
Yeah,
special part of the brand. And I really loved what you said earlier about, that's a non-negotiable. That is literally the center of, the core of the brand that you have.
yeah, yeah. And it's lovely to have that. And I think that when there's a market, like, as I'm sure you're aware, there's a lot of other hand creams out there. There's a lot of other products, and it's, how do you step out? How do you make yourself different? Like, how do you step out from the pack when there's multiple things out there? And ultimately, like I said before, like, you live and die by your product and how good it is. But also, it's the messaging that we can get across. And also, like, for me as a nurse, like, it had to be more than just a product. It had to be about, well, what can we do? Like, how can we help the NHS? What can we do for the staff? How can we help their hands? How can we help their well-being? Like, all of that. So I think, I don't know if you knew about it or if I'd mentioned this when I last spoke to you, Justine, but I left my job in the NHS not long ago. So I was working as a pediatric transplant nurse specialist until about 5 weeks ago. And I have fully joined the business now, but I am still a registered nurse, so I can still do my kind of keep my registration up by doing bank shifts and waiting list initiatives and things like that. So for me as well, like, it's funny because loads of people have said to me, oh, that must be really hard to leave your job that you like. I was well and truly engrossed in that job. Like, I looked after 140 kids who'd all had heart transplants, and like, I love the people that I work with, and on all my patients and their families, and you get to know them so well because you're with them at their hardest points in their lives. But I think if I'd gone into a job that was potentially meaningless or
Mm.
didn't have that kind of really caring route through it, I don't think I would want to do it, because it's kind of like, I need to care, like, I need to care through, like, that's so, like, that's my identity, and it's so intrinsically linked to me. And and if I was just go off and do something that wasn't in caring for some shape or form, then I'd just get very bored very quickly, I think. So nursing is allowing me to still continue to care, but care for the staff, that care for the people, care for the patients.
What's really interesting about that is, like we've talked to obviously a lot of people within healthcare on the podcast, and obviously within what we do, and that passion for caring it comes across so often. Whether you're in social care, whether you're in hospitals, it always shines through. And really interestingly, I was at a conference. It's probably a few years ago now. And we work with a lot of digital nurses, and one of the questions to some of the digital midwives that were actually on the stage was, was it difficult for you to move from being like bedside basically into a more like kind of governance, kind of patient safety sort of roles? There was a couple of them that said that they still practice bedside because they were like, we couldn't leave it
Yeah,
100%. We love what we're doing. We love that we're now in kind of a slightly different world and we can help lots of different patients through different wards and things like that. But they still were super passionate about making sure that they practiced, because they were like, it's just, that is part of exactly what you've just said. It's part of who they are. And they sort of said, we
yeah,
wouldn't be able to do these roles if we weren't able to do that as well. So they had like kind of that little mix, a bit like you've just said, in terms of, still being able to kind of, stay registered and make sure that you can kind
yeah.
of still do that, because it's such such a core part of you, basically.
Absolutely, absolutely,
Yeah.
100%.
I've got one more question that I'm going to ask, and it's about, you work in partnership with healthcare organisations. I'm sure there's listeners out there that are kind of listening to this that are thinking, how do we get involved? What does it involve? Anything like that. So can you just tell us a little bit more about that? And if people want to get involved in any way, how do they kind of get involved with Nursem?
Yeah, so I think one big thing for us, and a way of kind of spreading the Nursem Promise even more, is to link in with as many kind of institutions or like healthcare companies who sell into healthcare, to allow us to kind of deliver that even further. So we've recently started working with Radar Healthcare, which is amazing, and it does allow us to kind of to give back more. So for the Nursem Promise, for every product we sell. So that's brilliant, and we want to do a lot more with that. We have done some work around kind of getting the word out there with Nursem, but also getting the work around other healthcare companies. So things like this podcast, which is amazing, and we're more than happy to chat to people about that. I've been invited along to events to talk before about kind of about the story of Nursem, about well-being and burnout, which is very close to my heart. And so yeah, if anybody wanted anything like that, then just reach out. We'd be more than happy to chat and see what we can do to help.
Amazing. And when I put the episode out, we'll put obviously your contact details and the Nursem website and things like that on the notes as
Brilliant.
well, so everybody can find everything.
Thank
But
you.
yeah, I just think it's such an amazing brand. I'm just so excited to talk to you about it and to be doing some work with you guys as well. But at the end of every episode, we always ask our guests to share their what the health tech moment. So this started out as a little bit of fun when we started the podcast 3 years ago. But it's a standout experience in health or social care that's impacted you in some way. So Antonia, can you share with us what the health tech moment is?
So I've been ratcheting my brain about this a little bit, because there's been a lot of like probably funny little moments. But I think probably one of the ones that stuck in my mind and still gives me a bit of a funny feeling in my tummy is very early on in the Yes Nurse days, when we'd first started to do the formulas of Yes Nurse, and I was going in, taking them into work and kind of trying to get them out there. And we had some posters designed, and the poster was this nurse, and it had like little arrows all over her body, and it was like like a huge heart, like a busy brain, like all of these kind of like the things that you have to have as a nurse. And it was kind of highlighting. And it was like, yes, nurse, protect your lovely hands was the like kind of our wording at those days. And so we had these posters, and Johnny was somebody who's not worked in the NHS, was just like, well, why don't you just go around all the wards and just, just hand out these posters and get them put up on the staff rooms. So on my day off, I was like, okay, worked in the trust. So I was like, it'd be fine. Rocked up and went around all the wards and basically handed out these posters. And then a few days later, I received a letter in the post, and I was like, what on earth is this? And it was like an official letter from the trust, basically telling me off for putting posters up around the hospital, and that I had to go around the whole of the hospital and go and pick these posters back up off the walls and get rid of them. And I was absolutely mortified because I was just like, oh my goodness. And it was like a proper like cease and desist letter.
Yeah.
It was like, this is a telling off, and if you do it again, it would be a disciplinary.
Oh my gosh.
And I was so embarrassed, and I was like, so, because that's like, I am Miss Goody Two Shoes. I was like, and it was just like a proper like panicky moment. But then it kind of, in a sense, like, it was probably a really good learning curve as well, because I was like, right, okay, so there's certain ways that you have to do things, especially in the NHS. You have to go through the right people, and I didn't, and I got told off for it. I'll never be going around wards putting posters. But it was just funny because I was just, at the time I was like in my early 20s, and I was just like popping around like thinking, oh, well, might get a few sales through this.
Oh, wow. It's the thought of having to go back and take them all down again.
Oh, I was so mortified. It was just, I was just like, I've been told off, and I have to like explain myself to multiple wards as well and why it has to come down. People are like, oh, we really liked that. It was a lovely idea.
But you're like, okay,
yeah. Okay.
I can't believe it was an official telling off as well, just for putting posters up.
Telling off. I need to find that letter. I think I did keep it because it was a proper telling off.
Yeah. I'd have been like you. I'd have been like mortified, like, oh my gosh, I feel like I've just been properly told off by like a parent or something like that. Oh, wow.
I was just waiting to get a sack, like get the sack or something like that. I've been never working, like catastrophizing in my mind.
Yeah.
Be a nurse ever again.
Yeah. And then when someone asks you what you did, you put some posters up.
Yeah, put some posters up. Sorry.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I love it. And this is why we have these moments, because genuinely, like, some of the ones we've heard over the last 3 years have been incredible. So yeah, I love this like little segment that we do, because you just find out something that you'd never find out within the actual podcast episodes. So yeah. Love it. So thank you for sharing your most mortifying moment with us. No, but seriously, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing the heart behind Nursem. I think it's really inspiring to see, your brand. It's not only solving a real problem like we've touched on in the episode, but I think to be doing it with such compassion and integrity, I just think is absolutely incredible, and it's clearly so well thought of. So yeah, we obviously wish you all the best, and yeah, we're excited to be working with you guys as well.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. And to our listeners, if you'd like to learn more about Nursem or support the Nursem Promise, you can check it out at www.nursem.co.uk. We'll also share the links on the episode notes as well. Join us next time for another new episode. Don't forget to rate and subscribe. And if you've got any questions for us or our guests, please email whatthehealthtech@radarhealthcare.com.